When you're standing in a garage or a small shop, staring at a wall of welding tools, the temptation to grab the cheapest single-purpose machine is strong. It feels like a safe bet. You pay less now and you'll get the job done, right? In reality, the biggest mistake most hobbyists and small business owners make is buying a machine that can't grow with the projects they'll actually face. That's why I'm spending the next few minutes breaking down whether the ARCCAPTAIN MIG205MP 9-in-1 welder lives up to the hype, and if it's the kind of flexible tool that saves you from buying a different welder every time you switch material or process. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's talk about the type of buyer who ends up with a pile of single-purpose welders. If you're a weekend hobbyist who only ever does mild steel MIG, you might be fine with a basic unit. But even then, you'll quickly notice the limits. You can't move to aluminum, you can't tackle thin sheet work without a spool gun, and you're stuck buying a separate stick welder for outdoor repairs. On the other side of the spectrum, a professional shop that needs a dedicated TIG machine for aerospace components will find a multipurpose unit too clunky and underspec'd for the precision they demand. The ARCCAPTAIN MIG205MP sits somewhere in the middle, aiming to be a honest-stop shop for the do-a-bit-of-everything crowd. What makes this welder stand out is the sheer number of modes it packs into a single chassis: MIG, flux core, stick, TIG, DC high-frequency start, lift TIG, a pulsed MIG setting, and even a plasma cutter function. For someone who flips between repairing a rusted steel fence, building a custom bike frame, and dabbling in aluminum brackets, that breadth can be a game-changer. It removes the need to shuffle around separate power supplies, hoses, and torch heads. Instead, you just swap the consumable and press a button. In a real-world workshop, that translates to less downtime and fewer cables on the floor. The app control feature is another practical element that shows the device is trying to address modern workflow. Using a smartphone, you can store custom welding parameters, recall them later, and even adjust voltage or wire feed speed without reaching for a knob. In practice, that means if you're working on a series of identical aluminum brackets, you set the exact TIG settings once, save them, and then hit sync each time you switch the torch. No more guessing whether you turned a dial up too far. For a user who's comfortable with a phone and likes the idea of a digital memory bank, this is a genuine time saver. If you're the type who prefers a tactile knob and hates fiddling with an app while wearing gloves, you might find it an unnecessary layer. Now, the strengths. The biggest practical win is versatility. The MIG205MP handles 115V household outlets, so you can plug it into standard power without a dedicated 240V line. That's a huge plus if you're working out of a garage or a rented space where electrical upgrades are a hassle. The large LED display is bright enough to read even in a bright shop, and the SIN function lets you keep the output stable when the power source fluctuates, a common annoyance in older buildings. Users have reported that the machine maintains a consistent arc when they jump between MIG and TIG, which is essential for repeatable weld quality. Another strength lies in the included welding helmet with a sizable viewing screen. The screen's adjustable tint helps you stay comfortable when you're welding in variable lighting, and the helmet's auto-darkening sensor reacts quickly enough to protect your eyes without lag. Pairing the helmet with the Welder's app means you can see the exact amperage and voltage right on the screen, reducing the need to glance back at the machine. On the flip side, the compromises are where you need to decide if they matter to you. First, because it's a jack of all trades, the machine isn't the absolute best at any one process. The TIG mode, while functional, doesn't reach the fine control of a dedicated TIG welder with a foot pedal and pulse control. If you need high-precision aerospace welds, you'll probably feel limited by the lack of a true pulse width modulation and the relatively lower duty cycle on thin aluminum. The pulsed MIG feature helps with heat-sensitive metals, but the pulse frequency options are fewer than you'd find on a specialized pulsed MIG unit. Secondly, the machine's weight and footprint are noticeable. At just under 70 pounds, it's portable enough to move between a garage and a job site, but you'll still need a sturdy workbench or a wheeled cart. The power cord is long, which is convenient, yet the included ground clamp cable for stick welding can be a bit stiff, making it harder to maneuver in tight spaces. If your workshop is already cramped, you'll need to plan for the extra real estate this 9-in-1 device occupies. Another practical consideration is the consumable switchover. While swapping from MIG to TIG is as simple as changing